Hello. In this video we are going to expand on Activity 3.5 Applied Statistics. What should have already taken place is you should have gone through this and done the calculations manually. For this next part of our exercise, we are going to learn about Excel spreadsheet and how to do calculations in there. And so we're going to do this exercise in Excel, and it's going to set us up for another activity coming up that we're going to have to build the exact same thing in Excel to get our data. Our goal is standard deviation, understanding that and seeing where our data falls within one or two standard deviations. We'll look at that because of manufacturing. We want a perfect part, and we need to see if it's out of tolerance. Do we need to change processes? There's a thing called Six Sigma, which is ultimate goal through anything made in manufacturing, whether it's a car or your Nintendo controller or whatever. And Six Sigma is 6 defects per million. So we don't want, the only way we're going to be able to determine if our process is good enough to achieve that is by statistical process control, and this is where we would use this stuff moving forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of these numbers into Excel, have it calculate the mean, the median, the standard deviation, and we're going to build a histogram. So we're going to launch Excel. And now once we're on Excel, one of the first things I want to do, because not every computer is set up with some of the stuff that we need, we're going to go to File, Add-ins, oh, my bad, Options. And in Options, that's where we get the add-ins. Okay. And we are being slow. Oh, yeah, there we go. We were being a little slow. And in these add-ins on the options, we want to look like for the Analysis Tool Pack. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to say Go. It'll bring it up. And so I'm going to check the box for Analysis Tool Pack and say OK. And so it's going to put up some tools, additional tools. It may already be on your computer, but let's go through that and make sure. So one thing that's really, really important when we're doing Excel is making headings for all of our things that we're going to do. Otherwise, numbers scattered all over the place, when you come back to this later, won't make any sense at all. So we're going to make a column for our measurements. I'm going to make it big enough so we can see it, and within there I'm going to enter them just as they were in a row on the sheet. 4.1, enter. 4.1, enter. 4.0, enter. 4.1, enter. 3.9, enter. 4.4, enter. 3.9, enter. So I have my data entered in, but if you look at it, I have some that go to 1 decimal place, some that go to no decimal place, but if you look at our sheet, everything went to 1 decimal place. So we need to format our cells. So I'm going to highlight all of these cells that I want to format. And the format means I want to set stuff up. So I right-click, Format Cells. I'll get a pop-up. And in this pop-up window, I have a number of different things that I can do. Alignment, font, border, fill, protection. Similar, Word has some options where you can do this. So I'm looking at number, and so I'm going to set my decimal places. it came with 1, so I'm going to set it to 1, hit OK, and what it has now done is made all of them to 1 decimal place. Okay, so I'm going to move over a little bit, and I want to know the mean. I want to know the median. And you already figured out the mode, and we know that in this particular case I have 4.1, I have 4.0, and I have 3.9. So I have multimodal. That is not required for calculating standard deviation or creating a histogram to determine those things. So I'm not going to worry about it right now, but we do need standard deviation, and it's bigger than my cell, so I'm going to pick it and grow it big enough so it all fits, and we'll put our calculations here, and we're going to make it do the calculations, and we're going to come up with the formulas. Now I know that when we make our histogram there's a few more things we need to know, and that's going to be the min or minimum size. We're going to need to know the maximum size, and we need to know the range of our histogram. Okay, so I'm going to pick over here in mean because I want it to calculate the mean. So I have a tab up top, formulas. If I know some of my formulas, you will know that I can pick and start with equals, and it will give me some choices of the common ones that I've used, or if I haven't used any or I'm just plain not comfortable at this point in time, I can do function insert, and it gives me all the choices. It defaults usually to recent used. If you haven't used any or it's on something else, we need to go to statistical. So that's where we're going to go, is statistical, and we're trying to find out the mean. So I'm going to scroll down and pick up mean. It doesn't list mean as mean, but what is mean? Mean is actually average. So they have it as average in here. So pick OK with average. Now, number set. So if I pick this box here, it will allow me then to go and highlight what I want, and it plugs in A1 through A13. A being the column, A2, 2 being the row through row 13. I picked a little chart again. I don't have any other one that I want to group with that, so I'm going to say OK. It says the mean is 4.1, but if you remember, we are supposed to show one more decimal place than we were given in the original answer. So I am going to highlight these two because I'm going to need it for the median also. Right click, formula, number. I'm going to make it 2 places, and so it's 4.07. Should match your chart. Now median. I'm going to go back to my function, and we're going to scroll down. Still it's statistical. Scroll on down to median. Look for median. Oh, passed it up. There it is. Pick it. Say OK. Median. So I need to know the median of a set of numbers. So I'm going to pick the little chart, which allows me to then go and select my numbers. I don't have another selection, so OK. So it picked the median. So now we have, those numbers should match. Standard deviation. was something that was in the PowerPoint. It talked about with a population, so all of the potential numbers would be the population. So we're going to pick standard deviation within here. Standard dev p based on the entire population given. So that's going to be out of all of our numbers. So pick OK. Select this. Pick our numbers. And here we go. So that's my standard deviation, and it brought it all the way out. To a bunch of places. And we're going to make it 3 decimal places. Nope, it's supposed to be 2. So format cells, number, let me move this up in the middle, 2 decimal places, OK. Time. So we got a minimum and a maximum and a range. Well, these numbers are all over the place. It makes it hard to figure it out. So I want to sort them. So I'm going to highlight them. I am going to go to data, and I want to sort my data. So measurements is the column, and we want to sort the values that are there. I want to go to smallest to largest, or largest to smallest, and I want smallest to largest. So now they're all in order. So what's my minimum number? Is 3.8. And my maximum number is 4.4. Now, to figure out the range, I'm just going to take this number minus 3.8. So, as I showed you, I could do my own formula. Always start a formula with equals. I don't want to choose one. I just want to take this cell, and I want to subtract minus this cell. Enter. And so it did the math for me. So now I have that part of the information. There's one more thing that we're going to need to do, and let's talk about this real quick. I'm going to make a frequency chart and a histogram, and so I have to set up some data. Set up some things with the data. So I have to create an interval, in other words, a range that fits within my chart. Okay. So it's kind of like a container. They call them bins. And so here's how they define the bin values. Bin gives the boundary point between the intervals. So values less than or equal to the bin value, but greater than the last. So this particular one, 4.750, bigger would be 4.751, all the way up to and including 5. So that would be going in the 5 bin. Okay, so anything smaller than 4.750, including 4.750, would go in this bin. Okay, so that's what a bin is. It's just a container of size that's consistent from bin to bin to bin, so that if there are some values that are not exactly right on 4.75 or right exactly on 5.0, it knows where to place them for my chart. Okay, so we're going to go back to here. Alright, so now we have to create our bins. We have to determine a bin size, first of all. And since all of my measurements here are 0.1 apart, I'm going to say that my bin size is 0.1. And then now I need to create my bins. So I'm going to skip a line so I can see this nice and clearly. Bins. So I'm going to look at my smallest numbers, 3.8. It's on my min and my max, 3.8 to 4.4. So I need a 3.8 bin. Alright, so now I have created enough bins. So again, anything under and including 3.80 will go in this bin. 3.800000001 to 3.9 will go in this bin if I had measurements that fell in between. Alright, now that I have my bin sizes, I can now go and make a histogram. So I'm going to come up to Data, Analysis, Histogram, OK, Input Range. Pick over here, and then now I highlight the data that I have. Pick the chart again. Bin range. So I'm going to pick the range of bins. That was from 3.8 to 4.4. Pick the chart. Output range. That's where do I want the chart to go. So I'm going to pick the chart again. I'm going to pick over here. That's where I want it to go. Pick the chart again. There's nothing I need to change. Say OK. So there's my chart. Okay. So I probably should save here. As you should. Remember, if it makes you happy, save. Okay, so now we're going to actually make the chart from this. So this gives me the frequency, how many times there is something in each one of these bins. So I'm going to select just this info. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to insert a chart, and this type of chart is I want to use a column chart. Pick this column, and I have a chart that's not what I want it to be. I'll move it down here because it has double lines. I've had this happen sometimes. It separates it, and I'm not sure why, so I'm going to delete this. Actually, I'm better off just backing up. There we go. There we go. Now, what I found, and I don't know why, is sometimes it works just fine if I highlight just the data I want. Now this time when I did that, it didn't work. But if you remember, scroll back and look, when I first made this bin, when I put this together from the histogram and the data there, it highlighted all of this. There's more, and there's 0 in the more category. But let me show you, if I insert my chart now, it doesn't have that. Let me move this down here where I want it. So there's my chart, 3.8, there's one of them. 3.9, there's 2 of them. I agree. 4.0, there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. So the chart works. Now, I have a little bit of a gap here, and sometimes that's not as nice to look at. So if I right-click on one of the columns, I can... I'm sorry, my mistake. It's double-click on the column. It opens up this other window, which is where I can choose no gap. That's between the columns. So there, it puts it together. Okay, so there's my chart. There's my frequency of how many times each one of these fits within these different ranges. And again, see, there's the more, There's nothing in the more category. I don't have any real explanation as to why it doesn't do that correctly, but so what if more is there? I've tried editing it, it doesn't want to go away. I can live with that. So this is the process of creating a mean, median, getting my standard deviation. Oh, so what am I going to do with my standard deviation now? So my standard deviation is 1.65 from the mean, which is 4.07. So if I look at this, 4 is smack dab in the middle here, 4.1 is here, so 4.07 is probably somewhere around here. So I can draw a line, shape, line, and I can draw a line vertical. Okay, so there's my, because right at this line would be 4.05 if 4 is the middle and 4.1 is the middle, let's say. So I'm right in between there. And my standard deviation is 0.165. Take 4.07 minus the standard deviation. That'll tell me how far over it goes here. The mean plus the standard deviation, we can go there. So I could say standard deviation, it's 1 standard deviation. So let's put a 1 in front of that. 1. Okay, and so I can say that this is equals, I'll make my own formula, equals the mean plus standard deviation equals, it's 4.23. Does that make sense? 1/6. Yes, it does. Then in my smaller size of 1 standard deviation, I can say equals my mean minus my standard deviation equals, so between 3.9 and 4.23. So I'm going to draw another line. 3.9, so I'm going to say right about there. So I'm going to draw my line. Now what I've found is if my line is off a little bit, I can go pick it and move it to where I want it. So now I'm going to draw another line. 4.23, somewhere around over here. This is where if my bins are smaller sizes, I could be more accurate with them. So that is about 1 standard deviation. And if you look at it, 1 is out and these 2 are out. Basically, most of them are within 1 standard deviation, which would be my goal. If I have a lot of them on the outside, a lot more of them, I might need to look at my manufacturing process and say we need to change some things so that we can be within 1 standard deviation. I hope this helps, especially for the next operation where you're going to have a lot more measurements to use.